A little more than a year ago, Ford became the first OEM to grant its customers access to Tesla Superchargers. And they announced that they were going to give away free adapters to customers that wanted one. About 140,000 people raised their hand and said, "Send me that free adapter." At the time, Tesla was the only one manufacturing those NACS to CCS1 adapters that were necessary to allow Ford vehicles to charge on Tesla Superchargers. And this is that adapter here. It's made by Tesla. Shortly after Ford opened up its order banks for customers to order the adapter, it realized Tesla wasn't going to be able to produce these fast enough. So it began a partnership with Lectron to co-develop a Ford NACS to CCS1 adapter. And now that this adapter is in full production, Ford finally completed all of its deliveries. It took them a year to send out all of the adapters, but now everyone that asked for an adapter in North America has one. And I invited the CEO of Lectron, Chris Maiwald, and also Ford's Director of Charging and Energy Services, Ken Williams, on the show today so we could talk about this partnership and how this adapter was co-developed by Ford and Lectron. Let's get into it.
Earlier this week, Ford announced that it had completed delivering roughly 140,000 NACS to CCS1 adapters to its customers that requested the free adapter. We did a short video of it here on State of Charge, and many news outlets covered it. So I thought I'd do a little bit of a follow-up. And today I have both the CEO of Lectron, Chris Maiwald, who's in the upper left-hand corner of the screen, and on the upper right-hand corner of the screen, Ken Williams. He's the Director of Charging and Energy Services for Ford, and would be responsible for charging, adapters, and all things like this. Gentlemen, thanks for coming on State of Charge. I really appreciate it. I'd like to just talk a little bit about this co-engineered adapter between Ford and Lectron for CCS vehicles to access chargers that have NACS, native NACS connectors, really primarily the Tesla Supercharger network, but you could use this adapter for any NACS-equipped charging station. We're starting to see other networks now have NACS chargers on their network. So thank you again for coming on. But if you don't mind, before we talk, I just want to do a quick let's say, revision of how we got to where we are right now. Because while there's a lot of people that follow this industry, intensely, there's a lot of people that really don't know exactly what's going on with adapters and connectors and so forth. So I'm going to take a minute to explain this. So Tesla vehicles has a unique connector. It was called the Tesla connector, but later named the North American Charging Standard, or NACS. Pretty much every other electric vehicle used a connector called the J1772 for AC charging and the CCS1 connector for fast charging, with the exception of a couple of the Asian automakers who used a connector called CHAdeMO for DC fast charging. But CCS1 was a North American standard. About 2 years ago, Ford's CEO came out and said, we're going to transition our company to using Tesla's connector called the NACS connector, and we're going to have access to Tesla Superchargers. Soon after that, pretty much every other company followed suit. They kind of had to, or Ford would have had a tremendous advantage over its competition, having access to Tesla Superchargers with no other companies also having access. But in order to use these superchargers, an adapter is needed because the vehicles have a CCS1 charging port. Ford also announced it would be giving its customers complimentary NACS to CCS1 adapters to all the customers that asked for it. It then began giving the adapters out, which were made by Tesla. The rollout was relatively slow. There were customers that got them immediately and other customers that had to wait months. Then, to make matters worse, a batch of them were manufactured incorrectly and they had to be brought back. Ford had to replace them. Right around that time, Ford announced that it was co-developing its own adapter. It wasn't going to rely on Tesla anymore. It was going to make an adapter with Lectron, and they began that process. Once the adapter was completed, they started shipping it to their customers. And now, as of March 11th, 2025, all 140,000 customers that requested the adapter have it. With that said, here's Lectron CEO and Ford's Director of Charging and Energy Services to talk about this collaboration. Gentlemen, thanks for coming on again, and thank you for sitting through my long-winded explanation. But I know a lot of people don't really understand what's going on with the industry. So first, let me ask, and I'll throw this out to Ken. Ken, what led you to Lectron? There's a lot of different adapters out there. Why did you select Lectron to be the company you wanted to co-develop this adapter with?
Yeah, so when you think about what we were trying to do and the time frame we were trying to do it in, Lectron happened to be the best partner to do this with. The speed to market, the focus on quality that we have for our customers, we wanted to make sure that we're able to bring this to market quickly and robustly and make sure that we made something that was safe for our customers to use. So, we looked at other suppliers, but Lectron happened to be the best to do that with all that criteria.
Okay, and some of the things that were talked about, well, the main thing that I think was discussed that Lectron did was, and they had their own adapter called the Lectron Vortex adapter. So this is Ford's co-engineered adapter. They're very similar, but there are differences. We mostly talked about an additional locking pin that wouldn't allow the adapter to be just pressed and removed. I think there were other changes also, right? What are the differences in Lectron's Vortex and Ford's co-engineered adapter?
This video was sponsored by Qmerit, North America's premier installer of electric vehicle charging equipment. After I've helped you decide which electric vehicle charger you're going to buy, follow the link in the description of my videos and have Qmerit install it. And if you follow that link, Qmerit will waive the $150 installation deposit. But in order to have the deposit waived, you must follow the link in the description of my videos.
Yeah, so you probably saw the video that we published. One of the biggest changes was that interlock pin, but there was also a robustness change to the latch. Actually both the latch and the trigger, and we made sure that we could seal well. So you can see that we were submersing that part and making sure that in any condition it was going to function. And we really wanted to make sure that it passed all of the Ford standards. Drive over tests, making sure that it could manage being dropped on the ground. There are so many tests that we know our customers do. Just thinking about what happens on a regular basis when just thinking even that what you did, Tom, when you were first using it, you dropped the part. It's something people do every day. So we wanted to make sure that it was able to withstand our customers' usage.
And you definitely dropped them. I've dropped, and I use the Lectron Vortex adapter. I've used it on my EVs many times, and I've dropped it many times. And even the regular Lectron Vortex adapter, I haven't had any problem with. And looking at it, I've always thought this was very robustly made. There's only a couple on the market now that I actually like. There's a lot of really cheap, really inferior NACS to CCS1 adapters on the market. I urge anybody watching this, please don't go to Amazon and search for NACS adapters and filter by price and buy one. There's one out there that's like $100 now. And if you know anything about manufacturing, there's no way you could make an adapter for $100 and sell it profitably and have it be a quality adapter, a NACS to CCS1 adapter. So please, if you are watching this, get a high quality adapter, whether it be the Ford Engineer adapter. I still have a lot of faith in Lectron's regular Vortex adapter, which I'm going to toss to Chris now. Chris, so are you going to continue to sell the Vortex adapter in its current form, or would you transition to selling this co-engineered adapter and just call that the Vortex adapter?
Yeah. So the co-engineered adapter is the property of Ford Motors. So it's not, we had the great privilege of co-developing the product, working with the Ford engineering team, but the tooling and everything around it belongs to Ford. And we get to assemble a Ford product, and we're very, very delighted about that. But we couldn't sell a Ford product even if we wanted to.
Okay, interesting. So a lot of talk is about certification, and for instance, Tesla has said we don't want anybody using any adapter on our network except the ones that were sold to you by an OEM. And I've always maintained that once the UL 2252 certification has been completed and adapters get UL certified, I would think Tesla might soften their stance on that and say, well, if it's a UL certified adapter, it's got to be safe, it's got to be good. We don't know that yet, but that's what I'm guessing. Has either of these two adapters been through UL 2252 certification? And if not, are they currently in testing? And that's probably a question for both of you gentlemen. Chris, why don't you talk about your adapter first?
Yeah. So the first thing to know about UL 2252 is that it's still in outline stage. So it's not a completed standard yet. Currently, the products are being tested according to the July 2023 outline of UL 2252. Testing is advanced, but there are steps between the finalization of the testing and the issuing of the final report. We hope to have the final report according to the July 23 outline very, very soon. But we've done product validation testing, both on the Lectron side and on the Ford side, to ascertain that the product does comply with all of those standards. And obviously, Ford has been comfortable enough to ship the product.
Okay, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Ken. Have you worked directly with UL, or are you having that, or is Lectron handling certification?
So our engineering team does work directly with both Chris and UL. It is still in active discussions with UL, as Chris mentioned, so that nothing is final to date. Okay.
This is more speculation. It's probably a question for Chris. Chris, do you expect that the adapters, when they are completed UL certification, or when UL is finalized, do you expect that they'll be certified for 500 amps? Because some of the noise I'm getting from people that are involved with UL and certification of these adapters is that there'll be a real problem getting them certified at 500 amps because the UL 2252 certification process doesn't allow you to use a liquid-cooled cable during testing. Even though all of the 500 amp cables on the market out there customers are using are going to be liquid cooled. And the fact that they're not liquid cooled is going to cause some overheating issues. Is this an issue that you're familiar with, or and can you comment on that?
Yeah. So I think the current thermal cycling testing is at 500 amps for 30 minutes, then a 10-minute break. And then this gets repeated a couple of times. Our current understanding is that we are going to certify the product for 500 amps. And I'm not entirely certain about the liquid cooling discussion, but I know that, with sufficiently thick bus bar design, we're confident that we can certify the product for 500 amps.
Okay.
I know that there are other products out there on the market that are only rated for 350 amps. On the, from the risk side, we don't think that's necessarily a great choice. And, best in class manufacturers, Ford insisted on 500 amp rating, and we believe that that's the right decision to make.
Okay. And Ken, talked a little bit earlier about how Tesla had said that, they don't want any adapters being used on their network that aren't their adapter or sold by an OEM. What's Ford's position on customers using other adapters, not the one that you're currently selling?
Yeah, we still want our customers to use the adapter that we're providing, and just based on the testing that you saw we did, that's the only one that we can certify. It'd be really difficult for us to actually test every adapter that's on the market. So the only one that we can put our name on is the one that we produced.
Right.
That's right. And another thing that's worth pointing out, that a lot of the testing that Ford has done far exceeds requirements from UL 2252. So Ford standards are stringent. The UL 2252 is the minimum, and they go far above and beyond that. So that's why we're so proud that we were able to develop a product that is worthy of the Ford name. And it's much more than just complying with UL 2252.
So in other words, Ken, if a customer gets an adapter, even from another OEM, General Motors, Hyundai, gives their customer an adapter. So this isn't some sketchy adapter that was bought on Amazon. You still don't want them using it on your Ford vehicle.
Correct. We're trying to make sure that we are, from a recommendation and certification perspective, all we can say that is good is the one that we produced, because we tested it and we made sure that it was going to work. And again, you've seen that video. We spent a lot of time making sure that this part was going to work for our customers and that it was safe for them to use. And as you know, this is a very high power situation. So we want to make sure that we are doing the right thing for our customers.
Absolutely. And I couldn't help but notice in that video, some of the tests that you do for your adapters, I've been using for a few years here in the State of Charge Garage when I test charging equipment. So I was wondering if I should have my attorneys take a look at it and perhaps make a claim that you guys copied what I'm doing here. I'm just kidding, of course. I didn't invent testing, but I had more than one comment on my video that people say, Tom, that looks like what you do, which is a compliment to me. But I appreciate that you guys went the extra mile to make sure that everything was good on it. But Chris, this is a question for you, and let's go back to talking about that additional interlocking pin that Ford added, because I had some customers say, hey, Tom, I bought the Lectron Vortex adapter based on your recommendation, but it doesn't have this little interlocking pin. Do I have an issue? And I basically said no, because if the adapter's working properly, as soon as you press the button to release the adapter, charging stops. Could you talk a little bit to the fact that your adapter doesn't have that additional interlocking pin, but that it's safe for customers to use?
Well, it is safe for customers to use. So the product has been tested. There is no risk of disconnects or others. So it's a safe product to use. People can continue using their Vortex adapter as it is. It's a great product. It has fantastic reviews. And the interlock design is an additional safety feature. It adds additional redundancy in safety, and it does what great companies like Ford do. It goes above and beyond.
Okay. And I've, like I said, I've used it also, and the way you have it designed, if you press either one of these buttons, charging stops immediately. So that extra interlock, I guess, prevents it from being pulled out. But if the adapter's working properly, it shouldn't be able to be pulled out to begin with. But I understand Ford's extra layer. And Ken, going back really quickly to other adapters, because I get so many questions about this on my channel. If another adapter were to pass UL 2252 certification, let's say in 3 months from now, there's another adapter out there that gets certified and it's safety certified, UL certified. Will Ford consider allowing that? Like, is there some wiggle room where you say, look, if an adapter is UL certified, we consider it safe?
I think that's something we'd have to go back to our engineering team and evaluate as the certification gets updated. As I said, it's still in talks, so we're not entirely there yet. But for now, what I would say is we only certify our current adapter.
Okay.
And again, Ford's testing goes so far beyond UL 2252. UL 2252 should be the bare, compliance minimum in order to have a safe adapter. As you pointed out, a lot of products on Amazon don't even meet that. But the product that Ford developed goes so far above and beyond that in terms of usability, user-friendliness, insertion and removal force. So it's a really thoughtful product, and UL 2252 is, merely a little hygiene factor. This goes far beyond that.
Right. And Ken, just to be 100% correct. Anybody can purchase this from Ford website, or do you need to put in your VIN and you have to be a Ford customer? Like if somebody that owns a Hyundai says, that's the adapter I want, can they go to Ford's website and buy it?
Anyone can purchase it. It is an unauthenticated experience on the website, so you can buy it if you would like.
Okay, great. Chris, are you providing adapters to any other OEM, or are you two questions. Are you co-engineering an adapter with anybody else? You don't even have to name the brand if you are. And are you providing adapters to any of the other OEMs?
Yes and yes. So Ford was obviously very, very bold. They were the first. They were very generous with their customers, and they started a movement that put a lot of other OEMs under Zugzwang. And yes, we're also working with other OEMs on the development side. But obviously Ford has been first, has been bold, and has been a great customer.
Okay. How about volume, capacity? Chris, you're making the adapter and selling it. You've sold quite a bit of these. Now you're making the adapter for Ford. You mentioned that you're working with other companies. Will it get to a point where you have manufacturing bottleneck and you can't make enough of these adapters?
So without lead time, this is not a supply constrained product. So if we see orders coming in for another 250,000 and the existing production lines couldn't handle it, we could set up another line within 6 to 8 weeks. So we have the ability to scale up production as is needed for this, other DC adapters, other AC adapters, and chargers.
Okay.
Yeah, and what I can add to that is just think about the scale up of what we did with our own adapter. In January, we were at 61,000 adapters shipped. And by the end of February, or it was last week essentially, we shipped 140,000. So that scale was huge.
Wow, and that's the first time. I think that's the first time you've given numbers, because a lot of people had wondered where they were in the queue. They didn't understand how Ford gave them out, because some people were claiming, I reserved my adapter day one. There's people telling me they got them that reserved them after me. So you had to use some sort of a system deciding to ship them out that wasn't just based purely on when they reserved them, but the fact that you were able to catch up that much, in a month. So you more than doubled the amount of adapters that you sent out in the last say 2 months now, which leads me to I have to ask about the production of the original adapter that you guys partnered with, that Tesla was providing. Did they, and you may not want to answer this, but did they promise that they would deliver a certain amount and then didn't fulfill their promise, or did they just say we'll give you them as fast as we can make them? Because there was definitely some sort of I would call it a disconnect between what was promised and what people viewed that the timeline would be that they got the adapter.
I would say our biggest thing was supply outstripped our demand. We, within that first few days of getting the adapters shipped, or not shipped, but just thinking about the reservations that we had, we just saw the demand was huge. So what that triggered is us actually working with Lectron to make sure that we could get that supply as quickly as possible. And Tesla's been a great partner in this whole just working with the Supercharger network, and also making sure that we could get adapters in the first place. But they're also working with several other OEMs. So we needed to get another supplier on board, and that's why we went to Lectron.
And how early in the process was that? Did you do it, immediately as soon as you opened them up? Okay.
It was immediately. Just based on the testing that we had to do, and we made robustness changes. We talked about the latch and the interlock. So those changes Lectron had to work on, and as we started to test, we made more changes. So it took some time for us to get these adapters to the market, and it was longer than anybody wanted. I know it took a while, but we wanted to make sure we were delivering something with quality.
And this is the only adapter Ford is selling now, right? You're not, because I know there was a period where you were shipping both, I think, where you had some of Teslas still in stock, and you were sending them both maybe around November or December-ish, I think. I think my viewers at least were responding that they were receiving, some received one, some received the other, but now this is your adapter.
Correct. This is the only one.
Well, that's pretty much the questions that I have here today. If either of you have anything further to say on the topic, I'll give you this opportunity to mention that. I appreciate you guys coming on. Chris, do you have anything that you'd like to add to our discussion?
Maybe a general question. Why do you think a product as mundane as this, it's got people so excited?
Well, my answer to that is, I've been driving electric vehicles since 2009, okay? And the Tesla Supercharger network was the first ubiquitous, reliable charging network that there's been. And there's been other networks that have come out. Electrify America, EVgo, ChargePoint's really not a network, but people call it, Flow. And these companies have come out and if you want to call them competition to Tesla, but the whole user experience hasn't been nearly as good as the Tesla user experience. It was a tremendous competitive advantage that Tesla had over everybody else. People literally bought Teslas over other brands for the charging network. I've had people tell me, like, I would have rather bought a Ford Mustang Mach-E, but I bought a Model Y because it's such a better charging experience. So and this has been ingrained in EV owners' psyche for the last 10 years, Chris. That it's just so much easier. It's so much better to charge on the Tesla network. So as soon as it became available, that now we've got the golden goose. It was give me that adapter. I want it now. Like, there were people offering me money because they knew you and the other brands sent me these adapters to test, and I've got 20 of them here in the garage. I got 50 emails from people saying, Tom, I'll give you $500 for your adapter. This was early on when you really couldn't get them. And it was but Chris, it's liberating to have those chargers available. You might not even use them, but just to have this damn thing in your trunk, it's liberating now.
It's liberating. I think so. So I think the stuff that created so much excitement was the fact that Ford was bold and was first. It's hard to be first at anything, and it's hard to do that early on. The second thing is Ford was incredibly generous with their offering. To give these away to every one of their customers is quite unique. And I think the other thing you mentioned was that it's liberating. It's a little piece of freedom to drive without range anxiety, and that's really quite interesting to think about this. How a product that otherwise is relatively mundane created so much excitement in the in the American public. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had Jim Farley on State of Charge, and we talked about this, and he talked about road tripping in his Lightning, and how that's he explained that was kind of the linchpin to make him say, I got to do this. And I've given Ford tons of credit. I own a Ford F-150 Lightning. I love it. About to get in it and do a 500-mile road trip. I've given Ford tons of credit because they disrupted the whole industry. As I said earlier, once Jim said, we're doing this, everybody had to do it. They had no choice, because otherwise Ford would have had such an advantage, so it's not surprising, but somebody had to be first, and it took a lot of courage to be first.
That's precisely right.
So anyway, Ken, what are your thoughts on this?
No, I think you're absolutely right. It's something people were clamoring for. It's what we try to do within my team is how do we ease that transition to owning an electric vehicle? And one of the biggest barriers is worrying about charging on the road. We have home charging. We try to get people to think about home charging more. And I know that's something that you've done quite well in terms of making sure that people think, hey, I've got a gas station in my house, essentially. But this is the visceral fear of our customers. What happens when I go on the road and I get stranded somewhere? So this is that unlock. And part of that, what we've done is we have the global charge network, and we integrated a lot of networks together. More to come, so stay tuned for that. But that is something we are trying to do, make sure that our customers feel comfortable taking their car anywhere.
You guys are doing a tremendous job over there as it is, and I appreciate your efforts to try to push the needle with electrification. I love the Ford's Power Promise. Charging at home, honestly, is the best way to charge your electric vehicle, but we can't always charge at home, and you're making it easier when people are on the road, and particularly moving the needle with transitioning to the NACS and getting the rest of the industry to do that too. So, I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you both gentlemen for coming on here today. This was definitely informative, and thanks again for making this happen.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And once again, I'd like to thank Ken and Chris for coming on and giving us a little insight into how Ford and Lectron collaborated to make this guy here. And that was definitely informative. I learned some things here today. I didn't know that Ford, almost immediately after opening up their order banks, realized they weren't going to have enough adapters and approached Lectron to begin this collaboration to see if they can co-engineer adapter to their standards. Thought that was interesting. And another thing that was really interesting, and Ford has never revealed how many adapters they had shipped until the very end when they said we shipped all 140,000 adapters. And I've asked Ford on multiple occasions, can you tell us how many you've sent out? How many people are still waiting for their adapters? They wouldn't give out any of that information. But Ken said, as of the beginning of January, Ford had shipped 61,000 adapters to its customers. Now, most of those were the original Tesla adapter, but not all of them, because they started shipping this the last 2 months. I think in November and December, some of the adapters were Teslas, and then they transitioned to this adapter. So maybe 50,000 Tesla adapters got shipped, somewhere in that amount. But then from beginning of January to the end of February, they shipped 80,000. So in the first 9 months, they shipped 60,000. And in the last 2 months, they shipped 80,000. So that goes to show you the manufacturing capabilities that Lectron has, that they can just pump these out. Well, that's what they do. Tesla isn't an adapter manufacturer. I think they had to do it. They probably didn't even want to do it, but they kind of felt like, well, we've got to make these adapters if these companies now are going to be getting access to our network. So let's make sure we make them correct and they're safe and there's no problem with them. I think Tesla would have preferred to not be in the adapter business at all, but they kind of had to. So maybe now they won't have to moving forward. Maybe other manufacturers. I heard Chris say that he's working with other companies about co-engineering adapters also. But wow, 60,000 in the first 9 months, 80,000 more in the last 2 months. So yeah, Lectron can pump out adapters and charging equipment accessories. That's what they do. And on that note, Chris invited me to come to China to their manufacturing facilities and do a video, check out quality control, walk the manufacturing line as different products are being made, and do a comprehensive video on Lectron's manufacturing. So I took them up on that, and we're going to do it in a couple of months. So look for that video, me over in China checking out Lectron's manufacturing facility, how they make their products, how they do quality control, and all that good stuff. Well, that's all I have here today on Ford and Lectron collaboration and the the story behind the adapter. If this is your first time here at State of Charge, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming electric vehicle news and reviews. And as always, thanks for watching.